And they want to have you believe, as you go to the grocery store and get gas and pick up your kids from school, that there's a war going on around us. We live in a dangerous world and a dangerous time to live in that dangerous world when members of the Republican Party, people who are tasked with, who have been elected to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, are willing to sell that Constitution out for Donald Trump. And on the Sunday shows yesterday, it was remarkable watching both Michael McCaul, the dipshit congressman from Texas, and the dipshit senator John Barrasso from Wyoming. I love, this is the second clip I'm going to play, but I love these people from like Wyoming who act like, oh, people don't want to live next to MS-13. This is a guy from a state that has fewer inhabitants than the city in which I live. Wyoming as a state, as a massive swath of real estate and land, has fewer human beings living in it than Washington, D.C., the city. It's just, tell me more about your vast knowledge of what people want, but what people in Wyoming may want or don't want, John Barrasso. But first, let's go to Michael McCaul, who is asked about Stephen Miller threatening to suspend habeas corpus. I talked about this in a video on Saturday. Here's the thumbnail. Go find it. I go into great detail about the history of habeas corpus, about the definition of what exactly it means. It is vital. It is maybe the most vital piece to our liberty, to our freedom, to being able to push back against a fascistic, tyrannical government and leader like Donald Trump. It really pains me to even call him a leader. But Michael McCaul gave the absolute cowardice Republican answer, which is to cower before the might of the dear leader and say, well, the courts are going to have to decide. I don't really have an opinion, but the courts are going to have to decide. And it's all predicated upon whether this is an invasion or not. And they keep calling it invasion, that there's a justification to suspend habeas corpus, even though they also claim that border crossings are down 99.999%, as Donald Trump won't quit talking about. So you can't have it both ways. It's not an invasion that we need to suspend liberty protections of the Constitution. It can't be that if also border crossings are down 99.9999999%. It just can't. Here's Michael McCaul kissing Donald Trump, metaphorically kissing the asshole of Donald Trump on the weekend shows.
This past week as well, White House senior advisor Stephen Miller said, habeas corpus can be suspended at the time of an invasion, saying that the administration's looking at ways to potentially do away with due process for undocumented immigrants. You're an attorney. You're someone who deals with Homeland Security issues and immigration, being there from the Lone Star State. Is suspending habeas corpus for undocumented immigrants a good idea?
Well, this was done by President Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. It's a very extreme measure, to take. Any person in the United States under the Constitution has due process rights. So I think the courts are going to decide this one as to whether this invasion, in fact, constitutes what would be a state of war. Some would say it would. People in my state of Texas see an invasion and the drug cartels and the danger that they bring into my state and in this country. I think that will be a very interesting legal argument before the courts.
Well, curious to call it an invasion, especially when the administration likes to remind us that that border crossings are, of course, at a historic low. So that'll be part of the legal debate, I suppose. Congressman,
they have gone down substantially, yes.
They sure have. Congressman.
It's not even the invasion part of the war aspect of this that is about the invasion from the brown menace across the southern border. These racists and white supremacists would have you believe. It's also war that they're invoking, that the judiciary is waging war against Donald Trump and his fascistic agenda. They are using their constitutionally organized and granted and protected power as a co-equal branch of government to ensure there are checks and balances against a power-drunk leader like Donald Trump. Secondly, you can't give your own opinion. You have to, the courts are gonna have to settle this. What do you think, Congressman? What do you think as a duly elected representative who swore an oath to the Constitution to support and defend that document against all enemies, foreign and domestic? How about that? Now, let's get to John Barrasso, who represents about as many people as I consider neighbors here in this city that I live in, that's not even 10 by 10 miles. Here he is really leaving the door open that he would, in fact, maybe vote to or support the suspension of habeas corpus.
Finally, Senator, I want to talk about something that one of President Trump's top aides, Stephen Miller, said this week. He said the administration is actively looking at suspending habeas corpus. Just for our audience, that's the right to challenge a person's detention by the government. This would be a part of the broader efforts to speed up their deportation policies. The Constitution says that habeas corpus may not be suspended, quote, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion. Would you vote to suspend habeas corpus since the power does ultimately lie with Congress?
The president has said he will follow the law. The president says if he disagrees with the law, that he will appeal those things. The president was elected and he won every one of the battleground states on promising to secure the border and bring safety back to our communities. That's exactly what he is doing. People do not want to live with MS-13 gang members in their communities. The Democrats lost the election because they opened the borders to 10 million illegal immigrants, including members of criminal cartels, drug dealers, gang members. That's what the election was about. And the president has now seen judges, district judges, radical district judges using their courts to set national standards on making it harder for the president to deport individuals, criminals, and I stand with the president.
And yet, Senator, just to put a fine point on this, I want to know what you would do. Would you vote to suspend habeas corpus if this were brought before Congress? Ultimately, this power lies with Congress.
The president said he is going to follow the law. He was on with you last week. He said he has great respect for the Supreme Court. He said he expects the Attorney General to do the right thing, and I expect that the president will.
Can you just give me a yes or no what you would do, though? Would you support suspending habeas corpus?
I don't believe this is going to come to Congress.
Okay.
What I believe is the president is going to follow the law. He has said it repeatedly.
Look, this is all wildly depressing. This is, if you are someone who served in a federal capacity or with local government or in the military, that if you swore an oath, as I did, to this document, and if your word means something to you, this should be very troubling to you, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. That the only 4 times that the suspension of habeas corpus has taken place in the United States was 1, during the Civil War, 2, with like 9 or 11 counties within South Carolina when the federal government was battling against the Ku Klux Klan, and then 3 during World War II and Pearl Harbor. Actual war, actual remnants of physical battles. The other time was in the Philippines in like 1905. But I'm talking about in the United States. And they want to have you believe, as you go to the grocery store and get gas and pick up your kids from school, that there's a war going on around us. Let me tell you, as someone who served in the United States Marine Corps for years, this is the most peaceful war I think anybody's ever experienced. This invasion that's going on all around us. There's no justification to suspend habeas corpus. What it is, it's a justification for Donald Trump to completely circumvent the courts, to gain so much power that if he can arrest someone who's a non-citizen, he could certainly do it to you, because the Fifth Amendment, I will remind you, says, nor shall any person be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. No person, nor shall any person be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And the only way Donald Trump can truly do that is to suspend habeas corpus, to remove judges from the equation so they can't rule against him. And you got 2 members of Congress, one in the House, one in the Senate here, who are willing to let it happen because they are cowards and they don't care about their oath. They don't care about the Constitution as much as they bang on about it and pull it out of their pocket. Oh, look at this. I must be a true patriot. I got a Constitution in my pocket. Scary times. And it's going to be upon all of us. We cannot just rely on Democrats in Congress. It's going to rely on all of us to join arms, to join hands, and to rise up against this fascist government. What do you think? You can tell me where I'm wrong below in the comments, or you can call the voicemail line and leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. I'll be in Boise the last half of the week, like from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So you'll see me working out of a hotel room, and that should be fun. Maybe we'll get on the ground and talk to some decent, freedom-loving Americans who live in Idaho, and we'll see what happens. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine and take care of one another.